You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Bright Life Podcast. I'm so excited because I have a friend here today who is going to share with us so many things that will support our mental health, our physical health. Sarah Nevares is here. She is a holistic nutritional therapist. She specializes in holistic anxiety relief. And she's someone who has had her own journey with anxiety and depression for several years. And she's really learned the power of movement and food in helping to uncover the cause of her anxiety and to help find relief. She is so passionate. She shares so many amazing tips and education and research on her social media channels and through her work. She helps women not only figure out what could be making their anxiety worse, but helps them get to the root cause and discover the hidden messages that anxiety often has. She has a program designed to bring women relief through a whole body approach so they can feel more in control and have the energy to show up in their life how they desire before anxiety ever took control. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. You share so many good things, and Sarah and I met back in nutrition classes years ago, and I feel like one of the things that's always stood out to me about you is just I feel like you're so intentional, you're so genuine, you're so sincere, and I feel like you really bring such just expertise in the sense that like you're bringing these tips from a place of really caring about people and of having your own stories, and you let us into them. And so I just know so many millions of people in America in particular, but all around the world, like, struggle with anxiety. Obviously, the past year has
Mm.
been quite a doozy in terms of like probably triggers and just a new world for people to navigate. So I'm excited to spend the next little bit just hearing from you ways we can all really support our health, from that physical perspective, but mind and everything that's so important in that arena. So excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I am very, very excited and grateful to be here. And thank you for that beautiful intro. You give me a little worked up already.
Oh, I'm glad. No, it's all true. So maybe like bring us in, shared a little bit about your intro, but maybe just tell us a little bit about your story with your mental health, with anxiety, whatever you want to share with us.
Sure. So I was diagnosed in my teens with major depression and generalized anxiety disorder. I struggled with it pretty much until my early 20s. Um, and, while the depression kind of it stuck around, it was pretty manageable. I wasn't really having like suicidal tendencies anymore. It was just like this dull cloud. The anxiety really kept increasing. I hit it pretty well, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
but I started to have a lot of panic episodes that really freaked me out. My heart would start racing. I'd get that really like shallow, quick breathing, like I'm hyperventilating. I would shake and have tremors. And I had tried so many different medications over the almost 10 years, and none had really worked. I felt like I was in the doctor's office every other month, changing doses and trying different meds, which always came with new side effects to manage. And at that time, I kind of felt like that's just the way life was going to be. And I was also self medicating with food and alcohol, which was not helping the situation. And I'd gained a lot of weight. I was really unhappy with my body. And I hired a personal trainer to help me with that part of it, just to lose the weight. Um, he also started to help me look at my food choices, increase my water, and really push me to move my body every day, to just do something every single day, even when I wasn't training. I started to feel better than I had in years and began to really love working out because it gave me a break from just the constant chaos in my mind and the mind chatter. And, for that hour or whatever, I just felt like I was my own person again. I didn't feel controlled by it. And it really fueled me to keep going. And I continued to learn about the body, which led me to the NTA where you and I met, um, and what the body's needs are, and mine specifically. Once I found, foods that were making it worse and removed them, I was really able to deal with the anxiety from a whole body approach. It helped me to, take control and stop believing I was broken and just take back that control.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so powerful. It's like almost coming at it from so many different directions, and I think that's one of the things that is really, like, beautiful about your work is that you take this whole life approach to this where, medication was part of your journey and someone may need that, but then you also share so many ways to support the healing process alongside that. So
Hmm.
can you speak, more about that?
Yeah. So, I, you know, I just don't believe anymore that anxiety and depression is all in our heads. It's in our bodies as well. And it
Mhm.
can be coming from our body's needs, that aren't being met. And it can very well come from trauma. I'm not saying that that's not a part of it. It very well can. But it also, when we're not taking care of the body, it can manifest in those ways as well. Um, our neurotransmitters, they are created in our body from ingredients such as B6 and folate, vitamin D, essential fatty acids, amino acids, and if we are not giving the body those ingredients, it's going to come a point where it can't produce what we're asking it to. So, we got to take a look. Are we even giving the body what it needs to create those happy chemicals that we, feel we need so much? And there's a lot of studies out there even that, certain deficiencies like a B12, vitamin D, and even a magnesium deficiency, which is really common, can cause depression and anxiety. Um, Leaky gut, which a lot of us have and we don't even know it, or even a thyroid that's struggling. All of those can manifest through the anxiety and depression. And so, looking at that and finding out where your specific body is needing support is really important. I use what's called the nutritional assessment questionnaire, which is based off of just physical symptoms that somebody's having. And it gives me an idea of what systems in the body are needing support, whether it's digestion, adrenals, blood sugar, nutrient deficiencies. All of those areas is very unique to each person. And so it's important to look at those on an individual basis and really start to address that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to take like a closer look at really just how I don't know every system of the body. Like we learned this in nutrition programs and stuff like that, but just how it's all so connected. And
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said too about yes, there's a mental aspect of it, but our bodies, like even with trauma, they hold so much of that inside. Like think about even a stress when you feel stress and you can feel the tightness in your chest or like your shoulders clench up and after a month or so you really need to like work
Yeah.
that out.
Uh-huh.
It's just I think there's so much still that we're learning about that mind body connection, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just fascinating how related they are in that sense.
Yes.
What would you say, I know everybody's different and may need its own things, but like, what are some ways that you have found to help either mental health or lessen anxiety, like when it comes to a few areas? Like, start with maybe movement, since that's one that you mentioned that you have really benefited from.
Sure. So movement's been proven to increase endorphins, right? Which will bring down anxiety. That's your happy, elated emotion, you're high on life, and you can get that through physical activity. Um, And also, as a human being, we're meant to move our bodies every day. We were designed to be moving, and our culture has become so sedentary that
Mhm.
it it goes against our instinctual nature. And I think anytime that we get further and further away how we were designed, it's going to cause an imbalance, and it's going to cause, physical symptoms. So finding a way to move your body every day that you enjoy, which is key, is really important. So, that doesn't mean, if you're not a runner, I'm not going to tell you, well, if you want to feel better, you need to run 2 miles every day. That's going to cause more stress on you. So finding movement that's enjoyable, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a gym. Going for a walk a couple of times a day can really just give you that break that you need, to give you the space to find out what is actually going on. What does you really need? Maybe it is just movement. Maybe it is, no, I'm having a difficult conversation I need to have, and getting outside and getting fresh air. Um, all of this is just so important for our mind and our body. And again, they're connected, so you can't only treat one. Um, so just learning to find something that you love and incorporating it every day is very important.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I haven't ever really thought about it that directly, but I'm a big like walker. Like almost I just find at the end of the day I crave that walk to just get out and clear my head. Or if I have a call or something like that, sometimes I'll just have that craving in the middle of the day. Like I just need to walk and go, down to the little coffee shop or whatever. Coffee's probably not like helping in a sense, but like call me back down, but just that fresh air walk, I feel like
Mhm.
your body instinctively knows it's going to do something for it, because you do, after a while you kind of are like, okay, I need that, like that's going to feel good, and you may not even know why, but your body does. Your body on some level
Mhm.
is saying, let's get out there, like this is going to
Yeah.
help us out a little bit.
It's saying thank you.
Yeah.
It's an anxiety so much is a pent up energy, right? And energy needs to get out. And the best way to do that is to move, is to get it out. I started out, when I started out working out, it was intense. I worked out really, really hard for many, many years, and I loved it. Um, but then there came a time where that wasn't working anymore. Well, you can even take things a little too far, which I did. I'm a little of an all or nothing kind of gal.
Mhm.
Um, and so I actually had to really learn, like, even with my movement, to slow down. So I now love walks. I do take walks every day. Um, and while I still work out and lift and do kind of more intense stuff, I also, my body needs slow movement. It likes hiking. It likes walking. It likes, and I, everything's always evolving, right? And for me, I had to really learn the benefit even of just slowly walking.
Mhm. Yeah, I love what you said about how it can change too, because and just paying attention to that, because I think that's been true for me too, where you find something that works really well for you. And if you make it wrong when all of a sudden you're just not feeling that anymore, it's
Hmm.
almost like just accepting that as part of the way it's going to be. Like that will serve its purpose for a while. And then sometime you might want something different. Or even I find, depending on the day, sometimes I'll just give myself that window of like, okay, you're going to move for whatever amount of time, and I'll just give myself that agreement of like, you can do whatever you want, but just make sure you get a little movement in.
Hmm.
And that's been really fun for me to see. Like some days I do want that like fast pace, I'm craving that, and then other days I'm like, my body just wants, more of that gentle like stretching or yoga or a long walk outside. So that's
Yeah.
been kind of fun to just see that it does change, and like making that okay and part of the process, almost to be expected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's part of, loving yourself where you're at. For me, it was, I did intense workout for so many years, and then I started getting injuries. I started not liking it, and I really was hard on myself. I was like, what's wrong with you? You've got to, you push through this. You got to do this. It's not feeling the same. And my body was responding by injury. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I accepted that, okay, it's okay to just go for a walk. It's okay to not, you know, worry about the workout per se. And then I kind of started to shift again, and I was like, oh, okay, here
Yeah.
we go. I like this again. Okay.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? Like, do you have a combo that you love?
Yeah, well, I still lift weights.
Mhm.
I used to do CrossFit a lot, and that was my first love because I'm
Mhm.
really competitive. But now I just lift more. I follow a programming, and
Mhm.
it's just more slower. It's not like I- I'm not I'm not trying to compete or make
Right.
any records or anything. It's just more about taking care of my body and getting stronger. And I hike a lot more now, which I
Mhm.
love. And I just go for walks and just enjoy just just having a break. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit of combination of everything. And then like there's some days where I'll start lifting and I'm like, I'm not feeling this. And I
Mhm.
just stop or go for a walk, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much about, like, becoming on the same side and the same team as your body
Mm,
versus another task to do to check off that gives it even more of that stress chemical.
exactly.
What about in terms of nourishment? Like, what have you found works for you, works for your clients? Are there some common themes there?
Yeah. So nourishment is an interesting one in that I no longer look at it as food, right? Our bodies need nourishment through food, yes, but also through sleep and fun and
Mhm.
connection. All of that helps. It is part of the wellness like umbrella. And so we do look at nourishment in the form of food. So what are we eating? Are we eating enough protein? Are we eating enough healthy fats? Are we getting vitamin? Are we eating too much sugars or drinking alcohol? The things that are taking away. Kind of get back to the basics of the basic building blocks of what our body needs from a food standpoint.
Mhm.
Finding foods that you enjoy, um, and learning how to cook them. Um, and then we also look at sleep. How is the sleep? Are we having fun? So often we
Mhm.
get, I think especially as women, we get so wrapped up in taking care of everybody, and we're always the last one. And having fun almost becomes like a bad word. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have time for that. I've got all this other stuff to do. But if you're not having fun, we're not connecting. And if you're not connecting, you're missing that very vital piece to, again, who we are, and part of nourishing just our soul. And
Yeah.
so it's just looking at all of it in pieces. Depends. Everybody's different, right? I mean, some people that I've seen kind of have their their food dialed in a way, maybe a few tweaks and maybe increasing water, things like that. It's more, okay, we need to get you to a place where you can find relaxation and find joy again. And maybe that's the part that you need nourishment more than from the food, or you need rest, true, honest rest. And working with everybody as an individual. I think this year, or I guess almost year and a half now, has really drastically taken a toll on us as human beings. Not being able to nourish ourselves through connection and movement and relaxation, the constant, feed of fear and worry, and not living our life like we're used to. Um, and possibly leaning into a lot of self-medicating and bad habits has really amplified anxiety for people, and or created it where maybe you've never even experienced it before. um,
Mhm.
but even if you're in an area that's still dealing with that, I mean, we're all on some level still dealing with the ramifications of all of this. It's still possible to nourish and take care of ourselves completely. And I think right now is like such a beautiful opportunity, to an important time to do that and really learn what it is that we need to thrive. And that's what's going to make us resilient And, the next time something comes around, we know what we need to do and what our bodies really need to thrive.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that you mentioned even nourishment as even more than food, because so many times you think about the nutrition as being what people talk about with nourishment, but you're right, it's so many other pieces. And like I am on so many calls and with women who, like you said, they can work really hard, they can take care of their families, and at the end of the day, if there's anything less, like maybe they'll have fun, but they're almost like what do you even suggest? Like where do people start with that? If they're like, this has been such a wild year, I've been working from home, I've been taking care of kids, like I've been the teacher, the parent, everything. Like, what are some ways people can start bringing that joy, playing with that fun in, knowing it's different for everyone? But are there any places that you suggest people just start with as an experiment almost?
Yeah. So, first of all, it's going to take getting quiet and depending on how, spun up and tight you are, it might take some time to get to that place where you even remember what was fun.
Mhm.
That's been an issue for me in the past is I don't, I've working with a coach right now even, and it's like, well, what's fun to you? And when I'm really on edge and really spun up, I don't even remember what's fun. And it's
Mhm.
sad. And you kind of have to, sit with yourself and feel the sadness of that, the realizing that, oh my God, I don't even know what's fun anymore. But then e- explore, experiment.
Mhm.
Did you like to paint? Did you like to um, play music? My
Right.
husband has recently taken up guitar again, and he's relearning how to play the guitar. And just sitting and listening to that for me is enjoyable. It's just remembering what used to bring you, just make you feel relaxed, and like you
Mhm.
could do this without needing a timetable. And if you can't remember, that's okay, but experiment and try.
Yeah.
And reading, gosh, just sitting and getting lost in a good book. um, just think of the things that you used to do and give yourself the permission to do it. I think that's the main key. Even when you're experimenting with what is going to bring you joy and kind of fill you up, just give yourself permission to experiment and do it every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Just give yourself that time and see what happens with it.
Yeah, I love that. I think people get so much out of, or at least I do, I know of like having a new experience. And if you have that eye of experimentation where there's no pressure on it, you don't have to love whatever new thing you try, but maybe you will, maybe you'll be surprised by it. I was talking to a woman the other day who even she and her husband made this practice of going to every single class at their new gym just to see what it was like. And so they would do some that were like Zumba, some that were more like the body pump or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was became fun to them because they were kind of like on this, these little mini dates and they didn't know what they were getting into every time. So they could really laugh at themselves. But they were surprised. They both really ended up liking one of them. And
Hmm.
so I think that just spirit of experimentation and like this could be great, this could be like a disaster, but it'll still be a fun adventure because it's just getting out of just the social media feed or the technology for an hour of the day or whatever it can be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you said, just have fun with it. I think we put a lot
Mhm.
of pressure on ourselves, at least I do, to be
Yeah.
good at something. And it's like, even if you're not, you probably found something to laugh about. So there's
Yeah.
that.
I love it. I know. It's like the way kids do things. Like they don't care if they're not good at painting, at cooking or whatever, but they'll get messy, they'll
Hmm.
experiment, like they'll have a great old time just
Oh yeah.
in the act, the presence they bring to it.
Hmm.
What about for a big one that I feel like makes a difference for me is feeling somewhat grounded in a routine. And I know not everyone's like this. I know other women or people, colleagues in business with me that are like the opposite, right? Like a routine makes them want to run for the hills. It's just not their thing.
Hmm.
But maybe speak to that. Like, are there things that we can bring into our habits or our daily practices that really can just support our mental health, help alleviate anxiety, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So routines, I found to be helpful in that it can help slow down the pace of anxiety, right? Anxiety is very like fast and do this and I got to do this. And, it's just move, 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 move. And it can also be a fear of the unknown. In all that, we're trying to control the future. Well, you can kind of control the future a little bit in your routines. You know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. So every morning, I know that I have this time period is mine to read, to, not have to be anybody but me. And I have that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, setting, I mean, for me, it's in the morning. Just, some people, it might be an evening routine. It could, if you're not maybe a morning person. I like the mornings most because, especially if you have anxiety that seems to almost wake you up and you are hit the ground running. If you can create a space of time in the morning where it's yours, you know what to expect, you are in control of it, it can flow throughout the day. It just sets the tone. But if that's not your jam, we could do in the evening where it's a slow down routine. And this is my time to decompress. And this is my time to relax. And this is my time to do what I need to do. So often anxiety, um, you know, we can kind of abandon ourselves. And when we set small routines, they don't have to be all day long ones, they can just be an hour of a day. And you continually show up for yourself and keep a small promise to yourself, you build that confidence. And if your anxiety is stemming out of abandoning yourself, the message in it is, hey, what about me? But inside, all it feels like is just chaotic energy and anxiety and the constant mind running. A routine can help you reconnect and get back to, oh, what I'm really needing, what anxiety is really asking of me is to take care of me and to slow down. And it can help us to relearn and reconnect with ourselves and our own needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you kind of mentioned like there can be this almost message, like this little gem in it, where um, obviously, like there's certain times, right, where it probably doesn't feel like that, and it just feels like anything but when you're in that moment where you can look back and reflect, like, do you find that there usually can be some kind of message or wisdom behind it?
Yes, absolutely. And I honestly think this is kind of where the fun begins. This is where we really start to
Hmm.
learn about ourselves and love ourselves how as we are. Because anxiety is a part of us. It's a part of our messaging and alerting system. It's there for a reason. But when it's out of control or chronic, the messages get fuzzy and they get misunderstood. So I like to describe it like this. So if you visualize like this rundown house and you hear somebody inside asking for something or asking for help, but there's broken boards and broken glass and debris everywhere and you can't get to them. And you really can't even hear what they're saying because there's so much in between you both. Well, all that debris that's preventing us from hearing what the message is could very well be, you know, just the systems in our bodies that are out of balance, right? So the blood sugar mismanagement, maybe some gut function, some just needing rest or connection. And once we start peeling that all away, we get to hear what the actual message is. For me, it really became very clear when I found foods that I was sensitive to, and I removed them. Anxiety, it it felt different. So before, it was just bleeding into everything. I just felt out of control all the time. It was chaos inside. There was this constant buzzing that I'm trying to hide from everybody, and it was just this. It was exhausting.
Hmm.
And when I started to like remove the foods that were making it worse, I was like, oh my God, it's different. It's a different feeling. So when I eat something that triggers my anxiety, it's a much different sensation. And I can be like, oh, this is a food borne trigger. Like this is from the foods I ate. And I don't, and then it doesn't spin me into full on panic attack. I know it's going to go away.
Mhm.
I know that, I'm going to, it's okay. I know what it's from. Then there's other times when it comes up and then I know like, okay, there's a message in this. Maybe I'm struggling with a conversation I need to have, or I feel unheard. And, the message or the opportunity is really for me to either, stand up for myself or connect more. And, like it really comes a lot in our relationships. So anxiety can really much disconnect us, not only from ourselves, but others around us. For so many years, I wanted to hide it and I didn't want people to know what I was dealing with, but because it was all the time, I felt very crazy and I was afraid people thought I was crazy or I would be a burden. But a lot of the message of my anxiety was I was longing for connection. I wanted that honest connection, but because I was so afraid and I was trying to hide, I kept everybody at a distance, especially with my husband. I wanted to be, you know, doing it all. And so I continued, people pleasing and doing the things that I thought everyone wanted. And I never let him in. I thought he didn't know what was going on. He knew, your, your spouse knows when something's up. Um,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until I really started to get control of it, get away what was making it worse, and then sit with that new message. And then I was able to open up and be like, this is what's happening, and let him in. And it, you know, then it opens up the opportunity to have more connection, which is
Right.
really what I was wanting in the first place.
Right. It was almost like providing you whether or not it was like a enjoyable path, it was
Right.
almost providing you the path there in
Mm-hmm.
a roundabout way. Yeah. So much of anxiety I feel like is like it feels so strong in the moment, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what is something that someone can do if they save this episode and they're like feeling it right now? What's something that people can do in the moment to lessen anxiety?
Well, if you can, get outside. Get
Mhm.
somewhere where it gets your focus off of you, because we need to get out of our heads, right? We need to put our focus elsewhere. And if you can get outside, if you can't, just remove yourself to another room and take some, deep, I like box breathing, where it's,
Mhm.
a inhalation of 4 and hold for 4 and exhale for 4, and do a few rounds of that. And then get all your senses involved. Focus on, 5 things that you see, and name 4 things that you hear, um, 3 things that you can smell. And just go through all of your senses and just really focus in on that, and do some more breathing, and then see if it shifts it enough that you can get to, okay, what is it I need right now?
Mhm.
And of
Yeah.
course, move your body. If that doesn't, go for a walk, walking, and again, just getting outside and
Mhm.
getting out of your head is going to be the best thing that you can do.
It's almost like changing your state. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
you if you get outside, that can help if you kind of slow down. And I've even heard of like the breath I love. I've noticed a big difference with the breath. If I'm ever in like just a crazy situation or I feel kind of tense, I feel like that breath, it's surprising because you will feel like the difference. And a lot of times like with just slowing that breath down, or sometimes I'll even try and get still enough where I can like just slightly feel my heartbeat and like my wrist or something, feel the
Mm-hmm.
pulse. And
Mm-hmm.
that too, I feel like you have to almost slow so down and get so quiet and present and still that the concentration or the awareness of it almost changes you and pulls you out of that really hyperactive kind of state that anxiety can bring on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I love. I love all those. it's
Yeah.
almost just having your arsenal, right? Of knowing what works for you, because if you have it ahead of time in the moment, that's when you're going to need it. And that's when you can really draw from this toolbox you have cultivated of these are things that work for me. Which one do I want to try
Yeah.
today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's things that you can do in the moment, right? Like, if you're in the office and you can't necessarily go take a walk or go for a run or whatever, you can just turn your chair a different direction, look out the window and take some deep breaths. And
Hmm.
it does slow you down.
Right. Yeah, I had a girlfriend who would go kind of at a big party or something, which I think you could do in an office as well, where there's a lot of people around. And she'd just go to the bathroom and she would wash her hands with some really like warm water, and that felt good. And just take as, a few minutes and kind of do her hair and
Hmm.
like lipstick, but just the process of it. When I would, walk with her, it just felt so slow and just like she was taking that moment and that was hers before she'd go back into the storm of all the craziness. That
Hmm.
always stuck with me of like, oh wow, that's really like such a gentle, smart way of just taking a moment every hour or whatever she needs to just kind of recenter and then go back into the mess of the day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're more of like an introvert type,
Hmm.
that it's an energy exchange, right? And if you are feeling like you don't have any more energy, you've got to fill yourself up and you've got to find that way that can give you enough of a filling, to because sometimes you can't get fully away. Especially tend to be a little more introverted and I get overwhelmed with too much. But
Hmm.
there's not always it's not always reasonable that you can just be like, "Oh, okay, well, I've had enough. I'm out."
Right.
So you've got to learn some other coping and some other techniques that really help you to recenter and be like, "Okay, I got another hour in me. We got this."
Hmm.
And that's really important too. So then it prevents you from going to things that makes it even worse. Like, for me it was drinking. I drank a lot because I was overwhelmed and I felt like that's the only way I can keep
Hmm.
continuing, but then it continued the cycle of anxiety. And so learning new ways that are truly helping you, not just, masking it or numbing it out for the time being.
Right. I feel like a big one too is just like the support. Like you mentioned having that person who said, hey, like, here's some things you can do. Let's start moving your body. And I know you offer this for people. So, how, like, if people are listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, all of this would support me so much in whatever I've been doing, like, where can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, and that's where I hang out most at Sarah Nevares _NTP.
Hmm.
Or I'm available by email if anyone wants. I mean, they can always DM me on that, but also email
Hmm.
Sarah at empowered-healing.com. And I'm just happy to talk to anybody. Sometimes just being seen and heard and validated that you're not crazy, because you're not. I
Hmm.
mean, it's so hard to, you know, especially if you feel like you're alone. You're not. There's so many people dealing with this, and there's so many ways to peel back the layers and find what works for you and just take back that control, because you can. All it is it's just an imbalance in the body. And it's a message from the body saying, hey, I need a little help here. But you're not broken, and that's my biggest message to people is you're just not broken. You can absolutely take control of this.
I love that. It's such a like beautiful way to look at it. Like even if you're experiencing it and it feels so chaotic is just I think having someone who doesn't view that as something wrong with someone else
Mm-mm.
but says like you say you're not broken. This is feedback, and any feedback and the awareness of it, even someone realizing that they're feeling it, they always say that's the first step, right? Because you even being aware enough of it is what's going to enable you then to get the support, whether it's from Sarah, whether it's from the amazing things she shared today, to start that process of being able to really support it and get on your own side and be your best advocate and just help in the ways that your body maybe needs it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Well, thank you for being here today. Anything else you want to leave with us, or is that the best place to find you? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, best place is on Instagram. And
Great.
thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Yay. Likewise. All right. Thank you so much. I know so many people are just going to be helped by this today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping get the message out. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.